is full and there's plenty of ice for a fireside chat with anyone I like. What a beautiful day, good to be here, when almost everyone has disappeared, when almost everyone is waiting in line. It's good to meet you in this world of mine.
Welcome, everybody. It's Monday evening, and it's time for another wonderful 2-hour edition of Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean, or as I like to say, Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean. And yes, that's what we're here to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, living a healthy and extraordinarily beneficial lifestyle and relying on wisdom, common sense, good nutrition, exercise, and of course, in the case where you don't get the appropriate amount of dietary nutrients in your food, appropriate supplementation. And who is our fearless leader for this great conversation? Well, it's Dr. Carolyn Dean. And ladies and gentlemen, you are very fortunate to have her in your corner, doing what she's doing here in the world today to take a stand for nutrition, for nutrient-based foods, and other appropriate things that are going to enhance your lifestyle and your health. And also to teach you how to have a healthy mind, not to have a mind trashed up with ideas about death, disease, decay, and dismemberment, but to have a mind that's full of joy, a mind that's full of animation, a mind that's full of good information, and a mind that understands how the body works appropriately at a cellular level, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, to produce life. And that's what we're all about doing here, is producing life and lots of it. Before I bring her on, I just want to let you know that not only is she the most versatile, what is that word where you're, quadraphenic is one of them, Bob. Yes, I can hear you. But also that word like when you're double jointed, that word. She's so flexible, ladies and gentlemen. She can just go from one extraordinary end of health, vitality, and well-being to the other. And yes, she can talk about all the bad things, but she prefers to talk about all the great things. Having been a medical doctor and a naturopath, having been an author and informed and educated so many people, having done so many different modalities herself and vetted out so many different products, she's really narrowed it down to the total body reset and what can be done to effectively and easily sustain your health. So we're so happy to have her here with us this evening. And once again, also reminding everybody that she does not give medical advice on this show. She is just happy to share her wisdom with you. Welcome again to the stage, our very lovely, most excellent, and extraordinarily beautiful Dr. Carolyn Dean.
Thank you, Ginny. Another wonderful introduction that I will never live up to. Can't possibly live up to what you say about me. How can I?
That's absurd. That's absurd. What I say about you is what you've already done and what I see you doing all the time. It's not like I'm making something up, you goofball. Oh, my God.
Yeah, what's extraordinary about Carolyn is that she does do what Ginny says. She's modest, but she does do what you're saying. She's extraordinary in all those levels.
Yeah, she really is. So you're silly. You're a silly girl. Silly woman.
Yeah, I was just deflecting all the attention on me. Okay, so here we are for another fun-packed radio show. Lots to talk about. I did a couple of blogs this week. The first one, let's look at it. It's called Magnesium on WebMD, and you can find this at drcarolyndean.com. And what I somehow came across what WebMD, which is an allopathic medicine site, what they had to say about magnesium and testing for magnesium deficiency symptoms. And they talk about it as if we were talking about it, calling it an important electrolyte needed for proper muscle, nerve, and enzyme function. It helps the body use energy. It's needed to move other electrolytes like potassium and sodium into and out of cells. They could also have said calcium. And they say most of the magnesium in the body is found in the bones and inside the cells. Only a tiny amount is normally present in the blood. They say a blood test for magnesium is done to find a cause for nerve and muscle problems, such as muscle twitches, irritability, and muscle weakness, to find a cause of symptoms such as low blood pressure, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, dizziness, muscle weakness, and slurred speech. Now, I don't know if they mean there if they're looking for high levels of magnesium. Sometimes in the hospitals, they'll give you way too much IV magnesium and cause symptoms. But also for monitoring kidney function, I mean, they do look for high levels of serum magnesium because they say it's going to harm the kidneys, but they should really be checking the ionized magnesium to see what's in the cells, because the serum magnesium can be high, but the ionized cellular magnesium can be low. They still haven't figured all that out. They say you get a blood test of magnesium to find the cause of heart problems or if you have trouble breathing. And certainly asthma is a sign of magnesium deficiency. To find the cause of low calcium or potassium, to look for changes in magnesium levels caused by medicines, to see if people who have heart problems need extra magnesium. They say low magnesium levels can increase the chances of life-threatening heart rhythm problems. They say to use a blood test to measure levels when magnesium is being given for medical treatment. So, with WebMD knowing so much about magnesium, I say it makes you wonder why your doctors never recommend getting a magnesium blood test. But then, unfortunately, even if they do a magnesium blood test, chances are you'll be given a serum magnesium test. A magnesium RBC test is more accurate, but it's not as accurate as an ionized magnesium test, which is still only available in research labs. And I'll keep hounding whoever to get this test more available to the public, because then we'll be able to define true magnesium deficiencies. So then I just talk about, for the somewhat more accurate magnesium RBC test, you can get it online at requestedtest.com or directlabs.com. But then you have to be aware that they're just testing the average population that's walking into the lab with their magnesium deficiency. About 80% of the population is deficient in magnesium. So I tell people that for optimum health, maybe you want to be at the high end of the range. And I'm making this point about allopathic medicine acknowledging magnesium, but I also want to remind you that the form of magnesium that they advise, magnesium oxide, is only 4% absorbed. So I'm keeping in line with the FDA telling us we can't talk about magnesium-causing diseases, and just showing you how allopathic medicine is doing that very thing, but of course they're not selling supplements. The other blog that I did, yes, Bob. Bob is reaching for the mute button.
So it's like you got this like strange mind. You mentioned, so they, write something on calcium. So they write that. Then they, now write something on magnesium. So they look up all the things, and they write that out. Mm-hmm. Then they go on and write about potassium. They don't notice that magnesium is the implications of what they say it does. It affects everything. Mm-hmm. They don't generalize from it. They don't notice, well, geez, magnesium, we should put a big red gold star beside it.
Right.
They're just not noticing the implications of what they're saying about it.
It's the word nominalists. They're just naming and listing and putting down the facts. Oh, yeah.
And missing the connectedness or pattern recognition of the knowledge they just typed up and put up on the website.
Yeah, because they're not trying to create solutions, really. They're just
just for inventory. It's like,
inventory.
That's the battle between Plato and Aristotle. Plato says, I'm here to help you ascend. to a higher hypothesis. Don't get bogged down in descriptions, whereas Aristotle just described everything and made a bunch of encyclopedic knowledge you're supposed to memorize, so you know the names, but you don't ascend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because people name things, and as they're doing now, naming the genes and naming the bad genes, and want to have good genes. All that is part of the Aristotelian nominalists, and that brings up. Thank you, Bob. You can mute yourself now. That brings up the second blog I did this week. I just had Chad rush it out, and I got a little flack because I am kind of putting down one of my early mentors. The blog name is called Magnesium Regenerates Genes. It's also at drcarolyndean.com. And it is about this new practice of trying to test all your genes and telling you what's wrong with them and, pretending they know how to, quote, treat bad genes. So I talk about one of my early mentors in nutritional medicine is the brilliant Jeffrey Bland, Ph.D. He could cite 100 studies per hour in his riveting talks, and his basic approach is to recommend nutrients instead of drugs for disease symptoms. So that's the world of a lot of nutritional medicine. Is we're doing great if we can get people to build up their cellular health, which is what Ginny and I are talking about all the time now, build up their cellular health so their bodies can stay healthy and they can avoid disease. But what happened in my world is in my family practice, I being a naturopath, and actually in second-year medicine, I learned acupuncture in one of my, what do you call it, just sidebar studies, electives. So I was using homeopathy, herbology, acupuncture, and just plain common sense. So nutrients weren't my only modality. So this kind of set me apart because I had so many other options that when it came to nutrients, I only focused on what would work. And as a result, in the past decade, I created the handful of dietary supplements that really do work and that, I'm selling. So what happened with the other naturopaths and holistic doctors, if their only modality is nutrients, and these nutrients only work some of the time, the doctor keeps using more nutrients in higher doses to try to get better results. So in the past few years, people have been using tons and tons of supplements, and I don't know that they find they're not working, or what has happened in the functional medicine world, they call it functional medicine now, is they're trying to find more ways to use more dietary supplements by analyzing genes and gene mutations. And this critique that I'm writing here came about because I'm listening to some of the preview talks for a new online summit called Interpreting Your Genetics. And Jeff, he's the keynote speaker. He talks about genomics and epigenetics as the brave new direction in medicine. And he wants to position functional medicine practitioners to lead the way in interpreting patients' genetic test results and implement strategies to overcome gene mutations. He actually says he wants to create a new financial and economic model that will be something practitioners will want to participate in, so they will be able to make money in providing health care, not to just do disease care. I've got some edits and typos there because I rushed it. I apologize. So it's a great goal, but it'll be difficult because I've written about the control of insurance codes by the AMA so that doctors do not get paid to do nutritional counseling. So that's got to change. And that's why so many functional medicine practitioners depend on selling supplements to cover the costs, and most of them are outside of insurance. So what they're doing is only affordable by people who have money. And I make a derogatory comment about boys with toys comes to mind when I think of the energy being spent on this new technology to give practitioners more tools to talk their patients into eating better, exercising, getting more sleep, and taking more nutrients. And Jeff gives an example of how important he feels genetic testing is, because he found out that his vitamin D genes for proper vitamin D absorption and utilization were somehow abnormal. And he talked about taking more vitamin D, and some of his test markers for the immune system improved, and he thought that that was worth doing the testing. But see, therein lies the problem, because with vitamin D, we know you need magnesium in order to utilize the vitamin D. I'm sure Jeff is taking magnesium, so he would be fine. But if someone who does genetic counseling says, oh, your vitamin D genes need some help, you better take this vitamin D. Now, Jeff's vitamin D levels were fine as far as I could see. I think 30 is fine, but he thought he should be 50 to 60. So there's no standardization for what is healthy in terms of what to test for, what the test results tell us, what to give people, what nutrients to use. There's so many variables that it isn't even funny. And I've had the experience with patients and customers where they're on hundreds of nutrients because they're a nutritionist or they're a person who does muscle testing or has these energy machines that test you for the top 100 things that are out of balance in your body. All this negative input that just makes a person scared enough to take a whole bunch of nutrients just because they're scared and not because they feel that these things are helping them. And, I said it's all speculative. And actually I had a criticism about that, and we may get to that. But I continue on in my blog. I find this whole movement toward genetic testing and functional medicine very disturbing, especially since they're just playing catch-up with allopathic medicine. I've written about Dr. Alan Roses, who's the worldwide vice president of genetics at GlaxoSmithKline, who said at a 2003 conference, so, that's 14 years ago they've been doing this, he said, less than half of the patients taking blockbuster drugs actually benefit from them. I say shocking words, but it was just a strategy to promote Glaxo's brave new world of genetic engineering and genomics. Roses is on a mission to promote his field of pharmacogenomics, which applies human genetics to drug development, identifying, quote, responders, people who benefit from a drug with a genetic test that can be used to eliminate those non-responders who might benefit from a different drug. Instead of drugs, functional medicine doctors will use supplements, just like they do now, with the same level of ineffectiveness. So instead of scaring you with blood tests, hair mineral analysis, or results from energy machines, they will lay out your top 100 gene mutations and pretend to tell you they know what you should do to control them. And I just have a comment that I wrote in afterwards. Instead of scaring people into taking nutrients, I say just start with Remag, and as you start feeling healthier and have more energy, then you'll want to make changes. People don't want to change. A friend just told me of a mutual acquaintance who had lung cancer. She's a smoker. She's in her 70s, lung cancer, and she had her surgery. And my friend was talking to her on the phone the other day and heard her dragging on her cigarette on the other end of the line. People will not change. I don't think people will change unless they start to feel better with some of the initial changes they make, and that's why magnesium is so helpful in that regard. And then another lecturer in the Interpreting Your Genetics Summit spoke about epigenetics and admitted that among the 800 SNPs, SNPs, that could be identified, they're small gene mutations, the results they find or the suggestions they give for each SNP could be contradictory. Lord, suffering cats. That's such an understatement. We also know that 98% of genetic material in the body is considered junk DNA. So how can anybody draw any practical conclusions from testing the remaining 2%? Until there's more than speculation about the benefits of genetic testing, I prefer to stick with the benefits of magnesium, which performs numerous functions that produce, repair, and stabilize DNA as well as RNA. Stick with something that we know. So that's my little rant. We'll go to Ginny's blog next, but I wanted to ask Ginny if she had some input about this.
I got something, Carol. Since I know about Jeff Bland, we came to Hawaii with him in 1983 or so. He was like the first encyclopedic guy who would point out the studies of the alternative kind of stuff, vitamins and nutrients and stuff. Right. And so you learned a lot from him in the early 80s. Mm-hmm. So then he had a meeting of his scene here, and we came to Hawaii, and it was Maui. Mm-hmm. I remember a few years later, he got disappointed in him because he signed up with Metagenics or somebody and started sort of promoting products. Yeah. He went commercial a bit more. And then now I'm saying today, because the vitamins and minerals of the mainstream supplement industry ain't working anymore. Right, okay. He was falling behind. He's creating studies to promote the vitamins and nutrients and all that. Over the last 10 years, it hit him in the face. I'm showing studies of things that aren't working for different reasons. And the problems are way worse. You got 4 bodies and all these different reasons why it's not working. Right. And so he realizes he has to commercially stay alive by jumping on the newest bandwagon to keep doing the fallen state he's been in since 1990 of promoting bullshit for commercial reasons. Right. Now, he may not like me saying that about himself, and you probably wouldn't, but I'm saying it blatantly. Oh, yeah, and yes, you're giving your personal, non-medical, outsider jeering. Yeah. I'm a deplorable, calling the facts out. Okay, so that's good. You can mute yourself now. And that brings up, Bob didn't read this, but someone kind of criticized me for critiquing Jeff. And how do they know you did? Is it already out there? Yeah, the blog's out there. Oh, those words I wrote, Chad put them out this morning. So this doctor, I guess a medical doctor, says, I would walk softly when it comes to criticizing Jeff Bland. So I said to this doctor, yes, I know, and thanks for writing. I remember some of us criticizing Jeff at one of our Toronto seminars for starting his supplement company. I guess it was Metagenics. We thought he was selling out, and now I have my own company. But Jeff said he wanted to have the funding to do some good in alternative medicine, and he was right. So I don't mind him knowing that I'm not keen on this genetics testing. We all have to take criticism. And this doctor goes on to say not only is Jeff, let me find that again. Phooey. I say not only a lot in this. I'm searching for not only. Not only is he largely responsible for the present conscious awareness of healthcare practitioners and the public alike, he is also now looked to by governing bodies to shape the future offerings of health delivery. And I say, and his message will be compromised because he has to work with governments. So some of us have to be willing to keep the criticism going to maintain the outsider view. And that's what I'm doing. And Jeff has never got in touch with you, not at all since you've done the companies, and 5 or so years ago, and he hasn't talked to you before that. He is out of date. He doesn't know that you're the leader for what should be done in talking to the government. Thank you, Bob. No, do you agree? Well, I agree. I've got the answer, but I suppose a lot of people would say the same. Yeah, they think they got the answers and the particularities, but you've got a huge books and stuff that support your case. They don't have the test. Well, there's the thing about medicine. the average layman says, I can't get involved with medicine because it's also subjective. How do you defend yourself against the claims that everybody else has about their particular stuff, including that guy down in Brazil who sticks a sharp point in people's eyes, John of God or whatever, and people get healed by that? Where is the ruling, the lawfulness of what you're providing that overrides subjective getting healed by anything?
Well, I think what we've developed, and unfortunately we can't display our testimonials anymore, but people can put them on Amazon, for example, but we have people who will tell us that they've been to John of God, and they've tried every other magnesium and tried everything, and this works for them, and that's good enough for us. But yeah, there's a 60% chance of a placebo effect even with drugs.
Yeah.
So we have to work above that 60%, and we're batting pretty high. But anyway.
Okay, so this doctor, he's like back in the 90s or 10 years ago. He is saying Jeffrey's great for the supplement industry. He's now recognized, and so we can continue putting people on all this alternative supplements because Jeff is proven that's useful or something. But right. You've noticed that they're overdoing it.
Yeah, and what I end up saying to this guy, I mean, he says a bunch more, and he says, "Is this
is this the commentary section of your blog?"
No, I wrote this to him. But look, Bob, you've got to back off a bit. I can't have you talking so much.
Well, you should be clear. This is a private discussion with him.
Yes, I'm emailing him some of these words, and I'm telling my audience it's not public. So I end up saying to him, I've been fortunate to find some key supplements and focus on minerals and yeast overgrowth as the major factors in disease. I'm not keen on the dozens of supplements that most companies and practitioners think they have to use when I know we only need a handful. That's my statement. I think we're overdoing it with all these drugs and all these supplements. And most people would agree, but, I'm just being very clear to people, including to Jeff Bland, that, we're being led down a garden path. And I don't know. I mean, Jeff's not a clinician, but he's certainly had enough, people that he's interacted with to be cognizant of what patients and consumers and customers think, but I don't know if he's aware how scary people find these testings. I mean, I had an email from someone after this blog who said, well said, she gave me the compliment, I guess. Well said, Carolyn. I've been getting invitations to that genetic summit, and I keep saying to myself, do I really want to hear about that? I agree with you. The more they try to micromanage our bodies, the more they miss the big picture and the basics, and the more they keep us dependent on their care. That's a good idea, though, to register for it, just to listen to the previews and get an idea of where they're going. It's certainly fodder for your commentary, which is much appreciated. I used to want to do 23andMe genetic testing, but I now realize it's just information overload. My caveat is that I'm in excellent health at 68. I was healthy before I started the complement formulas, and I've been taking them since March 2013. Along with healthy diet and lifestyle, I remain well. I don't know how I would feel about getting more testing if I was suffering some serious health issue. I would certainly try the complement formulas first. And then she asked me a lab question, which I thought was interesting. She said, I ordered a few tests because Request a Test had a sale. I decided to test my omega fatty acids, which I've never done before. My total omegas were just a little low, but the EPA and DHA were significantly low. Arachidonic and linoleic acid were high, and my omega-6-3 ratio was very high. I was surprised because I do eat fatty fish, hemp, chia seeds, and take some cod liver oil. I wonder if it's because I eat a lot of nuts and seeds, which may be higher in omega-6. I avoid vegetable oils almost completely. Do you think I should be concerned about this? I don't know how long the test has been around or its reliability. And she says, I'm happy about my hemoglobin A1C, which is a pre-diabetic test. It's the lowest it's been in years. So here you have someone, she says, oh, well, let me do this test. And they say it's abnormal. So now what does she do? And I said, I guess now that you've opened that can of worms, you would have to stop nuts and seeds for a month and retest to see if there is a difference. What I would say is that the body doesn't care what the levels are, but uses what it needs when it needs it. Humans are the ones that say one is too low and one is too high at a certain point in time. But do we really know if that translates into good or poor health? So therein lies the dilemma where you do this testing and people pretend to know they have an answer. And, I've never heard an answer about these omegas, what exactly they mean. Certainly if they're dramatically low, et cetera, but even then, I've been reading a lot of books lately about over-testing and how we get pulled into this problem of now what do we do with the answer? And is there is there something that we can make of these answers? So anyway, that's
Hey, Carolyn.
that.
McLuhan's point is that when something is not effective really anymore, it becomes obsolete, which means it gets overused. The vitamins and supplements are expanding, people making millions of dollars over the last 10, 15 years because it's gradually becoming obsolete, and therefore it's spread.
Yeah, people
but it's
don't
not working.
understand that obsolete thing.
Some people do. Not everybody understand what I'm saying. The point is,
nobody understands what you're saying. Please.
Yes, they do. And so the point is the obsolescence principle is confirmed here. More and more people are using it, and it's not working because it's not constituted anymore. There's new frequencies in the world or something's going on that those supplements aren't dealing with. And that's why Jeff jumped to genetics. Okay?
Whatever you say,
that's
Bob,
relevant.
but stop saying it. Okay,
apologize to those who understand me.
Right. So, Ginny, I'm going to move to your blog now. Do you have anything to say? I wanted you to talk, actually, when Bob jumped in the second last time.
Well, I think that was a very good and robust conversation. I do like the points that you brought up, Carolyn, about the testing and things. But I do also, Bob, just say that, I understand your point about obsolescence and retrieval. My question to you is, it's kind of weird because on the one hand, you're being critical of something that on the other hand, we're saying is absolutely effective. And I think what's really terrible is the way these products are made, that they're not effective. And I think what's extraordinary is the way our products are made, which are amazingly effective. So, Carolyn, can you comment on that?
Well, that's where Bob was saying, the supplement industry is a billion-dollar industry now. So we do have a lot of products in there that aren't regulated properly, that they never get tagged by the FDA, and they dilute the quality of the whole industry, and they're not effective. But I guess on one hand you could say, well, at least they're not killing people like the side effects of drugs. So the FDA has a real problem trying to police all these products. Most of them are not made with the proper testing and the certificate of analysis that we have to have and do. So it's a messy situation, and you can kind of see why the FDA is trying to police it, but at the same time, I really do think they're policing it at the behest of the drug companies who don't want supplements to take over from drugs.
Right. Very excellent. Okay, Carolyn, thank you. Very good. Very interesting topic.
Right. Now we go to Ginny's blog. Now, what's fascinating, Ginny and I never really talk about what blog she's going to put out, and it's all about magnesium and vitamin D. Did you notice, Ginny? It's so perfect because...
I know, I was freaking out when you started to read that. I'm like, oh, my God, how cool.
Yeah. And, it's a great... It's a great opportunity for you to read more about magnesium and vitamin D. I'll mention some of the words that Ginny uses. You can see that blog at drcarolyndeanlive.com that has our archives where you can research all the stuff I've said before that I can no longer say in public. And Ginny mentions that magnesium and vitamin D should be taken together to maximize health, vitality, and well-being. She quotes the Vitamin D Council, who've actually been coming around more and more to the realization that, lo and behold, their vitamin D doesn't work as well if you don't have enough magnesium. And, this is what we're talking about. Bob was mentioning you can't have an isolated nutrient and expect to know the workings of it. And as Ginny says, I've been trying to educate people about vitamin D, and I certainly don't know all the ins and outs of vitamin D. I just know that a number of years ago when people started using high-potency vitamin D and the synthetic vitamin Ds, they started getting worse magnesium deficiency symptoms as their body was trying to metabolize the vitamin D. And my recommendation for vitamin D is Blue Ice Royal. Natural Pasture sells it. They have a fermented cod liver oil and butter oil, which is their Blue Ice Royal. And the fermented cod liver oil it's a kind of processed by the fermentation. It's got the vitamin D and vitamin A, and the butter oil has a vitamin K2, which is the third fat-soluble component that's necessary for bringing your calcium into the body and directing it to the bones so that it doesn't just hang out in soft tissues. And reading about cod liver oil, which is what I took when I was a kid, you had to take your teaspoon of cod liver oil. It has high levels of the omega-3 fatty acids, the EPA and DHA that are, one of our writers was saying she was slightly low in. Cod liver oil also contains vitamin A and vitamin D. It has historically been taken because of its vitamin A and D content, etc. Now, there's a new product out there. I think they're kind of trying to be in competition with Blue Ice Royal, and around the time they came out, there was a whole attack on Blue Ice Royal and their fermenting process. But theirs is just called extra virgin cod liver oil, and it's just vitamin D and vitamin A and the EPA and DHA, and not the butter oil that you need for your vitamin K2. So that's why I recommend the Blue Ice Royal. EPA, DHA, vitamin D, vitamin A, and vitamin K2. So it really does a lot of things, and it's a food. It's not a synthetic. One of the questions that came out of Ginny's blog was vitamin D or D3. Vitamin D3 is the more natural form, but as I say quite often, vitamin D is made from sheep lanolin. Vitamin D3 is made from sheep lanolin. That's why I'd rather take the Blue Ice Royal. And this dentist, Canadian dentist friend of ours, who gives out copies of his Magnesium Miracle Book to his patients, wanted to stress the importance of vitamin K2. And I just want to say before I move on, like this dentist, I really think every one of you should buy a dozen copies of the new edition of Magnesium Miracle and give it to people who want to stay healthy and happy. I'm not able to talk about all the things that magnesium can do, so I have to let my book talk for me as long as it's legal for the book to be out there. Unless you think this is a shameless attempt to make more money, you can rest assured that I'm not going to get rich on my 80 cents per book royalties. If you think medicine and the supplement industry is strange, look at the publishing industry, where a writer who writes for a publishing company that sells a book for $20 gives the writer 80 cents for each book. But on Amazon, you can get that book for about $12. They've got a really good discount. So get your dozen copies and use it for all your presents this year. So our dentist says, please address the importance of the role of vitamin K2. Dr. Weston Price, over 70 years ago, talked about this factor. This is in the butter oil. So although I haven't written a lot about vitamin K2, I Googled my name and vitamin K2, and the whole first page I'm talking about K2. So I've definitely talked about it. And as a dentist, he knows how important K2 is in bone development, for facial bones, etc. And Doctors Price and Pottinger, they were dentists, and they felt that vitamin K2 was very important for dental development and for preventing cavities. Apparently, vitamin K2 is more present in organ meat, which not many people are eating these days. I can get calf's liver here from grass-fed beef, so that's the main organ meat I eat, except for chicken organ meat. The Japanese obtained vitamin K2 easily by fermenting natto beans, N-A-T-T-O, a very rich source of K2. And he said my views would be of great interest to him. And basically, yes, I absolutely promote vitamin K2 in the Blue Ice Royal as a tasty way to get, well, actually, if you get the capsules, the Blue Ice Royal is kind of strong if you get the liquid form. So, okay, just a couple of more.
Okay, a topic side point. Jeff Bland moving into the genetic analysis of things, is that what the drug companies can exploit? Is that moving it back into drug company control when you get into genetic analysis?
Yeah, did you hear me talk about the Smith-GlaxoSmithKline? Yes. Yeah, they want to go into genetics to find out what drugs work best for people, do individualized care, because I think there is a backlash against drugs. So the drug companies started to look at vaccinating everybody, and now there's a vaccine backlash, and now they're looking into genetics, which it's such a complex topic that most people just say, oh, okay, let me get my gene test. Oh, okay, I guess you know what you're talking about. Nobody knows what they're talking about. When I was in honors biology genetics before I switched over to medicine, we didn't really know anything. We were just cutting up little egg yolks and little chickens, poor things. And I make the big joke about genetics that I should have stayed in and learned to isolate the stupidity gene, because none of the gene experiments have ever worked out, which means they wanted to test all the genes and find out what genes control what disease, take out that gene and replace it with a good gene. And they've done those experiments, and everybody died. So now they're looking at, well, what nutrients or what drugs to give according to the genes. So, yeah, they're just, it's more practicing medicine, emphasis on practicing.
Yeah, and they bought up all the vitamins. Some big corporations bought up the vitamin companies.
Yeah, they are.
So they got that covered for now, but they know that's going to fade out, so they're moving into the next situation. And this is where Jeff Bland, unwittingly, I assume, has really working for the other side.
Not really. I think he's trying to take some control of it so that it can be under the purvey of functional medicine doctors who interpret the genetic testing. But my comment is they don't know enough about supplements to be even recommending supplements to help our genetics, because they're not looking at the non-laxative type of magnesium that I'm working with, or not looking at yeast overgrowth. So
you're saying Jeff doesn't know enough.
Right.
Okay, good.
Okay, so one more mailbag, and then I'll go to Ginny. For tonight's show, what types of vitamin D does Dr. Dean recommend for best absorption? So that's the Blue Ice Royal. Does she work with whole food supplements of vitamin D? Yeah, blue ice royal is a food. I've tried to keep my vitamin D at 75 to 100 range, but need 5,000 units a day to do this. How does she advise I keep mine closer to 75? I don't. I think by taking high doses of vitamin D and having your levels so high, you're pulling in too much calcium, which overcalcifies the body, and it kind of neutralizes your magnesium. And she asks, will I feel better if I supplement vitamin D and magnesium in combo? Definitely. That's the report we're getting from people that take their Blue Eyes Royal and their Remag, that their vitamin D levels go to a good range, and my range is 30 to 40, and they feel better. So it's an experiment. You have to do the reading. You have to Google my name and vitamin D and all that I've said about it. Again, I'm not the expert on vitamin D, but I'm kind of the expert on using magnesium with vitamin D, and have a lot of reports. But I don't know who's doing the research. The Vitamin D Council, as I said, is coming up with some of the studies that show that magnesium is necessary in order for vitamin D to work. If you look at the writings about vitamin D being a hormone, you see that perhaps we've been treating vitamin D as a nutrient, as a supplement, inappropriately, because we think, oh, well, let's have as high an amount as we can in our blood for this vitamin D. Also, you have to look at the fact that the test they do for vitamin D is the inactive form, OH vitamin D, instead of the active form. So there's some real discrepancies there. So basically, I personally use Blue Eyes Royal in my Remag, and I feel fine. I don't know my current vitamin D levels, however, because I don't trust the OH vitamin D testing. It's how you feel rather than what your blood tests look like. So I've managed to use up Bob and I have managed to use up most of the hour, but we've gone through a lot. There's still some more questions about vitamin K, but I'll leave that. I'll see if there's chats or a phone call we can do before the top of the hour. Over to you, Jenny.
Excellent. Okay, very good. Yes, it was a very productive first hour. Lots of good information, very good interaction with Bob. Thank you, Bob, for contributing. Let me just ask a few questions, Carolyn, that people are asking, one of which is, does the Blue Eyes Royal cod liver oil have enough vitamin D, A, and K2 so that the additional is not needed? Do I need to take fish oil along with fish oil? Not sure I understand that.
Well, the Blue Eyes Royal is a food, and they don't even give you the amounts of the DA and K2, but my thinking on it is it's going to be absorbed as a food a lot better than the sheep lanolin, and the body's going to utilize what it needs. Forcing higher and higher doses can raise your levels, but you're really going to have to take it and see how you feel. I don't really have the answer on that. I know that the Blue Eyes Royal people have had that question over and over. We've had people who say, they went off their high-dose vitamin D, they measured their levels, and they took the Blue Eyes Royal, and it kept their levels elevated, or, kept it at a good level, and they felt well. So that's something you're going to have to play with. I don't know if there's anyone that can give you a standard answer.
Very good.
Oh, and in terms of fish oils, it does have the cod liver oil does have DHA and EPA, and if you're eating some fish, presumably that should give you enough of your omega-3 fatty acids. When they do studies on the omega-3 fatty acids for this, that, and the other thing, and they're using 3,000 milligrams, they're trying to give you high enough doses to have a measurable effect in the person. But if if every day you're taking a little bit of these nutrients, the body's going to, use them, store them up. I mean, I remember a study on little almost infants, but they were walking, so it must have been like 2 and 3 year olds. Instead of giving them a diet, they put a smorgasbord out for all their meals, and the kids would binge on sometimes one thing at a time. Even all day they'd binge on something, and then the next day they'd eat something else. And I don't know what kind of testing they did, but they said maybe it was just a food diary. They said at the end of the week they'd all kind of eaten everything. So it's like, we're getting away from our bodies telling us what we need. We're trying to systematize our everything too much. So if you have a craving for something, as long as it's not cocaine, then, satisfy it. Learn what your body seems to want.
Very good. Okay, so what she said was, do I need to take fish oil along with cod liver oil? But I think you did answer that. Did you, Carolyn?
Yeah, the cod liver oil is a fish oil, and it has EPA and DHA. And if you're eating some fish, that's where people get their fish oil in their food. So, where did these supplements come from all of a sudden?
Very good. Linda typed in, said, I'm looking forward to the updated edition of your book, which, again, can be pre-ordered on Amazon, you guys, if you're interested. I take magnesium citrate right now because I want the laxative effect, but recently read something that said that mag citrate damages cerviplasm. Could you please speak to that and explain what that means?
Yeah, that's something that's been put out on the wires. Damages ceruloplasm, which is what binds copper and ferries copper through the body. When I heard about that, I phoned some researchers, and there was a paper put out that countered those charges. I don't know what's happened since then, but it's I don't know where these things come from. Sometimes people will read a study or two and then make a conclusion, and then it gets on the internet and it becomes a thing. But I don't think it's true at all. And I guess what I could do is find that paper for you, Ginny, and you could have it available if people ask for it.
Okay. Is that the issue with Morley?
Yep.
Okay, then I know where to find it. Okay, I can just email me at support, SUPPORT, at rnareset.com, Linda, and put ceruloplasm in the subject line, and I'll know what you're talking about, and I will send you the paper. Okay, excellent. All right, very good. Now, next hour, we're going to go to the phone, so let me just tell everybody this hour how we're going to do that. It's 602-666-6027 is the phone number to call. Again, that's 602-666-6027. When you come into the phone, you're going to hit star 5. Star 5 on your keypad is going to raise your hand and let us know you have a question or comment, and then we'll put you on the phone with Dr. Dean. And just absolutely delightful to talk to. It cracks me up because some people are like, I don't want to talk on the radio, but really you don't spend but a minute or two in the conversation, and then it's just like you're talking to your best friend or your sister, and you don't really feel like you're on the radio. So if you have a question for her this evening, I highly recommend that you take advantage of her wisdom and counsel. Not every doctor does this. That is for sure, for sure. You can't even get the doctors that you pay to see to listen to you when you're in their office, much little ones that you're not paying to see, which is Dr. Dean, who's here of her own free will, just in her goodness of her heart, to talk to you, and she will listen by cracky. She will absolutely listen. And one quick last question before we go to the top of the hour. Carolyn, Steph typed in and said, can you address the importance of magnesium in the lymphatic system?
I don't know that I know the answer to that, except for the fact that magnesium is a detoxifier. It works through the liver. It works through glutathione, so it's going to be cleaning the body. But as for direct effect on the lymphatic, I haven't heard that. It's a good question. And for the person who asked about magnesium citrate, they're using it for the laxative effect. You may use it for that, but it's not getting into your cells properly if you're just using it to have bowel movements. So that's why my recommendation is often for people to take both the non-laxative Remag and the magnesium citrate if they need the laxative effect. And in fact, most people will say to us when they get saturated with Remag, their bowels start working properly because their muscles in their intestines perform the correct peristaltic action to have their bowel movements normally instead of forcing them. See you later.
Very good. Excellent. We'll be right back, everybody. Hour 2 on the way. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
You can also get updates and resources online by visiting drcarolyndean.com.
AchieveRadio.com.
Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is AchieveRadio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AchieveRadio.
What a beautiful day to be alive. My debt is paid and more money arrives. The fridge is full and there's plenty of ice for a fireside chat with anyone I like. What a beautiful day, good to be here, when almost everyone has disappeared, when almost everyone is waiting in line. It's good to meet you in this world of mine.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2 of Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. So happy that you're here with us this evening live, and also those who listen through the archives. And don't forget, you can subscribe to our podcast so it just lands up in your phone every night, Monday evening after we're done with the show. The podcast will automatically download to your phone if you want to do that through iTunes. So that is another option for you. But we're glad you're listening no matter what. And we're here to welcome Dr. Dean back to the show for Hour 2, and also to remind everybody who is interested that you absolutely might want to talk to Dr. Dean tonight to call 602-666-6027, and we will put you on the phone with her lickety-split. Once I just check in and see, are there any, here's one more question that we had, Carolyn, that kind of carries over, and this is our good friend Claire, wonderful customer. Do your products help improve mitochondrial function?
Absolutely. I don't know if that's a claim, but scientifically, the mitochondria are where you have your Krebs cycle, your gluconeogenesis, all your citric acid cycle, which is kind of the same as the Krebs cycle. And as I've said many, many times about the Krebs cycle, 6 of the 8 steps require magnesium. So they're absolutely necessary in mitochondrial function.
Okay, wonderful. Excellent. Okay, so let's take some phone calls. Oh, Carolyn, I think you're going to be so excited. One of our very most precious people in the whole wide world is calling in this evening from area code 919, the great state of North Carolina. Hello, Roman.
Oh.
Hey.
Hey, Roman.
Dr. Dean.
Hey, congratulations there, Daddy.
Well, I appreciate that. I actually, Dr. Dean, have Mom is listening on the speaker, and she says hi too.
I'm just adjusting my headset here. I'm having a little trouble hearing you, Roman. Maybe it's because you're on the speaker, but anyway, just speak up. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I really appreciate that. We have the baby on the way, and it's going to be due in November, about November 25th.
Wonderful.
So we're very excited about that, and I appreciate the congratulations. I had a little bit of news for you. I had a cardiac scan done of my heart for calcium.
Yeah.
And I scored a 0 on that. I was very, very excited about that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Wow. Were they surprised? Were the doctors surprised?
They were a little bit. They were expecting to see, some calcium, but I scored a 0. So I was really, really excited about that.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm only having arrhythmia now once a month. It's it's spaced out to once a month now, and when I have it, it only lasts an hour to 2 hours, and then it terminates. But the good thing is that the symptoms are way, way down. Used to it was unbearable and I couldn't do anything. Now I can pretty much go on with my normal routine even when I'm having the arrhythmia. So there have been really, really big improvements. I did read on your blog about the vitamin D, which I thought was really interesting, and you said that a level in the 30s was, if I read it right, was a good level to have.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at. I have the only place I get vitamin D is I go out in the sun. Like maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And I get my vitamin D, but of course I'm doing the Remag, so I'm getting plenty of magnesium.
Right.
To go along, well, and I take 12 K2 also, like you said.
Well, and that's a very good point, Roman, that I forgot to make. We're talking about all these supplements, but the sunshine is your best source of vitamin D. And just getting out in the sun, there you are, getting your 10, 15 minutes a day, and you've got a decent level of vitamin D, and you're taking your magnesium to metabolize it. I've had people who've been low in their magnesium. They go for a holiday to the beach, and they get so much sun that they start feeling twitchy and dehydrated and all kinds of symptoms, which then sounds like magnesium deficiency because they're using up their already low stores of magnesium to metabolize the sunshine vitamin D. So that's how important magnesium is. If it's there, it's going to help you, work with whatever vitamin D you can get from your diet or from the sunshine. So, yeah, that's a good follow-up, Roman. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm doing good in that department, and I also liked your blog about the ketogenic diets and stuff. I pretty much, I do eat my grass-fed meats like I told you and all that, but I tried to eat quite a few different kinds of foods, and Mom is taking some Remag and the Remite minerals, getting ready for the baby. So we're doing that, and we're very, very, everything is going really, really good.
Wow.
But I was now she did, Dr. Dean. I took her to the OBGN, and they did a cervix exam on her, and they found some area of precancerous cells, which they took a biopsy, and she's supposed to go back for another biopsy, and that was a little concerning. They said they were the highest, I think, stage 4 or something of precancerous development. And I wanted to ask you if you've run into that, and what are some good things to do to prevent, maybe to prevent those from going, turning over into cancerous cells. I don't have a lot of experience dealing with that.
Is it? Did they say it was from warts? That type of wart that can indicate that?
No, ma'am. They said that it might be the HPV virus.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Human papilloma virus, warts. Yeah.
Yeah. They thought that it. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, they thought that it might be coming from that.
Yeah, I can't really go into medical stuff because of the FDA and all, but what you would do is look up the human papilloma virus and actually vitamin A. There are studies about using vitamin A, using different vitamins for the human papilloma virus, and it's. It may be that the hormones of pregnancy have just sort of, stimulated some growth of that virus, all that sort of thing. So just do a little research. I'll shoot you some information. And, the trouble is with doctors, when they say pre-cancer, you hear cancer. And I know, you're smart enough to hear the pre, and you're saying, well, we don't want to make it go any further. But, you got to be careful, especially with the delivery coming on, not to do too much biopsying of the cervix to interfere with the delivery.
Oh, okay. Well, they wanted to do another biopsy in September. Before the baby, came, because they were real concerned to see if it got any bigger, Dr. Dean.
Yeah, right.
And if it got bigger, they were talking about taking the baby with a C-section or something. So
right.
And then doing some cancer treatments, or remove the area.
Right.
And then later they were talking about doing a hysterectomy, but I told my wife that I don't really think that a hysterectomy is going to be needed if the nutrition is going good. If we can get that going good.
Right, and it's a real shame. They really talk too much. All of a sudden a pre-cancer ends up being a hysterectomy, and it's because they don't know about nutrition. They don't understand what happens. With the hormones of pregnancy, they can create an activation of this virus. So it's I'm sure it's very, it's frightening for someone to be told all this, especially when, you're so excited about having a baby and all of a sudden all this happens. So, yeah, we'll send you some information and maybe, remind you about our total biology consultant, Dr. David Holt. And he talks to people about the conflicts that people can have when you talk about pre-cancer. Then the conflict isn't so much the pre-cancer; it's the stress that's put on a person from what the doctor's scaring you and acting like it's full-blown cancer all of a sudden.
That sounds really awesome, Dr. Dean. I think you guys have my email. So
yeah.
If you could email me that info, we would really appreciate it.
Of course. Okay, Roman. Yeah, thanks for calling. And like I said, I can't really talk on the phone about this, but we can give you some references. Okay?
Okay, that sounds great, Dr. Dean. I really appreciate it, and I'll give you another update in a couple of weeks or so.
Okay, and what's your wife's name? I haven't met her yet.
Her name is Amanda.
Amanda. Hi, Amanda. It's good to know you. We'll give you all some information so you don't have to worry. Okay, dear?
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, Roman, thanks for calling. You hang in there.
Okay, and she said thank you, Dr. Dean. We really appreciate it.
Oh, I know. It's okay, Roman, and thanks for calling in. Bye-bye now.
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Okay, excellent. Just love hearing from Roman. For those of you who are not familiar with Roman's long journey and his involvement here with us, email me at support@rnareset.com if you're interested, and I'll send you some good information about that. Okay, 602-666-6027 is the number to call if you have a question or comment this evening. You've got to hit *5 on your keypad to raise your hand in the studio, and if I don't call on you, you've got to type into the chat line and say, hey, I'm raising my hand and you're not calling on me, because that does happen sometime. But right now, I look out across my magical board and see that area code 512 has a question for Dr. Dean, so that's where we're going next. Area code 512, you're on the line with Dr. Dean. If you could give us your name and then state your question or comment.
Melissa.
Hey, Melissa, go ahead.
Hi. I have been on the reset program 4 months now. And in the beginning, I had some increase in energy. Before I started the program, I was dealing with chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue, hypothyroidism, and so forth. But so about a month after, or maybe 6 weeks after I started, I didn't have that boost in energy anymore, and I haven't had it return. And I've had to increase very, very slow, so I'm up to 2 1/4 teaspoons now. And wondering, is that something that you've seen happen, like just a crash for a few months, or?
360 boys. Yeah, it can. How old are you, Melissa?
44.
How many kids?
2 boys. It seems like 12 boys, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be. Yeah. Anyway, yes. What tends to happen is, you can get an initial boost, but then if there are other things going on, often it's some of the yeast showing up, for which we recommend a yeast diet. That's a possibility, and otherwise, it's hard to advise you because the FDA won't let us talk about diseases. But what we do know is that the reset, it takes, and you're into it 4 months. But like you said, if you were slowly increasing, you've probably only been on close to a full protocol for a month. And, it does take several months to get your health and get your energy. We're not trying to treat disease or anything. We're just trying to help you increase your health and your energy.
Right.
So what we usually say to people is, well, look at the yeast information we have. You can go to drcarolyndeanlive.com and type in yeast and look at the yeast diet. That's the most important thing. Because see what happens when you don't have enough energy is and I'm not saying you're doing this, but in general, people might drink coffee or tea or eat sugar or something just to give them a boost. And it's those things that can put an extra strain on the adrenal glands, and the sugar certainly can diminish your magnesium. And already having the hypothyroid, how much remite have you gotten to?
I'm up to 1.5 teaspoons.
Okay, that's good. And, that's going to take a few months to help kick in. Are you on thyroid medication?
No, I used to take like an Armour, a natural desiccated, like a pig.
Right.
But I weaned myself off of that last year, so I just do like iodine, a little bit of iodine sometimes, not every day. I do like L-tyrosine. I'm trying to just do everything naturally, no more, because I used to take adrenal glandulars and thyroid glandulars, but I didn't want to keep, putting myself on a crutch. I wanted my stuff to start to heal on its own.
Right.
So I got off all of that stuff when I started, looking into the magnesium deficiency.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, because it's low potency minerals, as you can see from the label. Even the Remag is low potency. So, and we do that so that we don't force things. And like you said, you have to take it slow because your body just gets revved up. I think the best I can say to you is just be patient that you're going in the right direction. But if there's any other information you can give me, like, do you think you could have yeast overgrowth?
I've done a lot of cleanses. I've been, dealing with this fatigue for 10 years, and so I've done a lot of parasite and yeast cleansing, so I would be surprised if I still did. But I know it's something that can come back, but I don't have any symptoms. Like, I don't get symptomology as far as yeast overgrowth. But, and I don't,
right.
Like you said, I don't do the caffeine because I can't. It makes me too anxious and nervous. But, I do a low sugar diet, but I don't do a no sugar diet. So there's, I guess, a possibility.
Right. And it doesn't have to be, outright yeast. It's just another thing that's sort of draining your energy. And I don't, it's hard to say how strict you have to be, but if you've been dealing with fatigue for 10 years, it's going to take more time to saturate yourself with the Remag. So I'd start there, but do keep in touch with us, keep in touch with Ginny or Melody Rhodes at customer service, and make sure if you think of anything else that might be affecting you or in the loop.
I guess there is one other thing. I did get off I was on a benzo drug for a couple of years, and I got off of that 2.5 years ago. I guess now I've been off of it, so I don't know. I don't see why I'll still be dealing with that, but I have read some pretty scary testimonies of people who are still very sick, 2-3 years later. So I don't know. The only other piece of the puzzle that anybody has ever pointed out and said maybe it's that. So
well, think about it. Look at the scenario here. You've got 2 boys to take care of. You've got low thyroid. You have adrenal fatigue and the chronic fatigue, and all these things that you're trying to overcome, and then the benzo history. So, and you've been doing a lot of cleansing, which can cleansing can take a lot of energy out of a person too, and it can drain your minerals. So you've got a lot of reasons to feel yucky, but I think, you might be able to stay. I'm just sort of trying to read your energy from your voice. You might be able to say you're about 40% better. Is that a possibility?
Well, yeah, maybe from when I first got off the anxiety medication, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
From that point, I would say maybe 40% better, because that was the lowest point in my journey. So
yeah, right. And our input is just mainly to tell you that a lot of other people have found their energy and their health by feeding their cells with the nutrients that we work with, but it will take some time, and it's a matter of when you have a bit of energy, don't use it up and say, now I have to clean the house.
I think maybe I made a mistake, because when I did have some energy, I would go on bike rides, and I thought it was okay, but then I would crash.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's real common. You've been down so long. As soon as you feel a little better or a lot better, you just go crazy with it. So that's a possibility too. But it doesn't. You're not going to stay low. You've got some energy back. You kind of used it up too much. Now you just have to say, okay, I know I had a window there where I felt a lot better, and I'll get back to it. You got to self-talk yourself, and do positive self-talk every day. You can't drop back into, oh, I don't think this is working. Oh, what am I going to do? This works. So you got to admit it to yourself and just keep being positive and keep moving forward. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And if you can think of any testimonies that where they've gone through a situation like I have, where they kind of hit a plateau and then kind of went into a dip for a while and then sprung back up, I would love to hear about it.
Yeah, Jenny, are we allowed to do that, or do we just get Melissa to go to drcarolyndeanlive.com and type in chronic fatigue to look for?
Yeah, it's probably the best way to do it. Is just go to drcarolyndeanlive.com. It just as Carolyn was saying, yeah, and there's lots in there.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, Melissa. So keep in touch. Like I said, call customer service. We'll try to support you as much as we legally can. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, excellent. Now, Gail typed into the chat line that she's raising her hand, but Gail, you need to type me and let me know what area code you're at, because I'm still not finding you. Okay. And also, Carolyn, a person typed in and said, the Realign supplement hurts my stomach. I take them with food, but that doesn't seem to help. Any suggestions?
Yeah, that's kind of a new one on me. I guess what you would do is open it up and maybe put a quarter of the granules in the Realign, and it smells like sulfur because they're sulfur-based amino acids, and mix that in some food. Just try tiny bits to get your body used to it. It shouldn't hurt your stomach. But if it does, you got to prove whether or not a little bit does, or I don't know if you're sensitive to methylated bees, but if you want to try just using small bits of it in your food and get your body used to digesting it.
Very good. Let me also say that on the Realign, they say they're taking it with food, but you definitely have to take it with food because it's got the betaine in it and that kind of thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. Let's go. Okay. Now, Gail, we definitely have a dilemma because your saying you're on here, but you haven't called into the studio, or I don't have you here at all. So let's try this again. 602-666-6027 is the number. You have to call me. I can't call you. You call me, 602-666-6027, and then when you come in here, I'll be watching for you, and then I'll be able to get you on right away. Unless you're calling from another number, but let's try. Have you called into the studio, or are you on hold? Let's try that. Okay. And let's go to Steph in area code 717, Carolyn, and talk with her while we're sorting out Gail. Go ahead, please, Steph. You're on the line with Dr. Dean.
Hi, Dr. Dean. This is Steph here. I was the one that asked the question earlier about the lymphatic system. I have another question for you. And it's regarding the information from Dr. Andrea Rosanoff that you referred to in one of your books. She talks about the relationship of magnesium to the production of ATP, in I believe in the mitochondria. I'm not too familiar with this information, but she makes reference to calcium. I guess it's in a calcium imbalance between magnesium and calcium, and how it can have different effects on different types of cells in the body. And she refers to, and I'm looking at her information right here, she says an example of lower than normal magnesium-calcium ratio in heart cells causes enlargement or hypertrophy. Would that be the same thing as like left ventricular hypertrophy or cardiomyopathy?
It could be cardiomyopathy. I'd have to ask her. Left ventricular hypertrophy, that's usually when, they talk about ejection fraction. I don't know exactly if you don't have enough magnesium and you have too much calcium, if that results in the heart muscle enlarging. Because that's what, hypertrophy and cardiomyopathy are, the enlarging muscle cells. Because if that were the case, so many people have calcium overload, and not everybody has cardiomyopathy or hypertrophy. That's my reasoning on the spot. Okay. So I don't think so.
Okay, I have another question. I've been doing the REMAG for a little over a year now, and just for simply to regulate heartbeat. I had like an irregular heartbeat that I could feel. It wasn't diagnosed as such, but I could feel it. There was like a pounding sometimes, and sometimes it would be a skipped heartbeat or something, and that seems to have really improved greatly since I've been doing the REMAG. But I also have an enlarged thyroid gland, the thyroid nodules, which they're calling a non-toxic goiter. I've been diagnosed with that for over about maybe it's 12 years now, and have been biopsied twice with it, and also have had it measured with ultrasound several times. It's kind of on hold now. It hasn't enlarged since I have made some changes in the types of protein that I had been taking. I was taking a soy protein, which I stopped. And the enlargement seems to have slowed down, if not come to a halt. But since I started the restructure and the magnesium, I haven't had it measured. Well, no, I have had it measured, and that's when we noticed that it stopped. It's come to a halt as far as the enlarging. But it even seems like to me as though it's becoming smaller. Is that possible? Or is that my imagination?
Well, we can't say that these products are helping a disease, so you're asking me a question that the FDA would not like me answering.
Right. I am sorry about that.
It's okay. Oh, it's okay, Steph. But what I would say is what we're doing with the minerals and the restructure is providing the cells with optimum nutrition. And by doing that, if there are areas in the cells of the body that are out of balance for whatever reason, they'll go back into balance.
Okay, makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Okay. It does. Makes a lot of sense, especially since I'm experiencing that, I believe. And as far as the restructure, it has a prebiotic in it, according to the label.
Yes, it does.
Is it necessary to also take the probiotic with that, or does it naturally build up probiotic in the system?
Well, I don't think there are probiotics in Restructure. There are in the RNA drops, but, if you're eating sauerkraut or occasional kefir or any of these fermented vegetables or yogurts with probiotics, you're getting probiotics. So you can do it in your diet.
Okay.
There are people who take, if you're taking antibiotics, doctors recommend probiotics.
Right, and that's what I'm on now for a upper respiratory infection that I'm just getting over. And I ran out of my probiotic that I normally take, but I thought, well, I wonder if there's something else I could do here with the Restructure that would be a good substitute for that. So you would suggest...
personally, I'd get the probiotic.
Okay.
We don't have our own probiotic, but I like the one that we recommend so much. We have it in our shopping cart, and there is a great concern with taking antibiotics and not doing a probiotic afterward, or several hours separated from the antibiotic. But I think by the time you get your probiotic, then you'll be finished with the antibiotic.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks for calling, and thanks for hanging out in the chat line.
Okay. It's fun. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye, Steph.
Excellent. Okay. Very good. I have, thank you, Steph, for calling in, and I have found my long-lost friend, Gail, area code 620. Hello, love. You're here.
Should I turn down my volume here?
Yeah, very good. Turn down your volume. If you're on speaker, try not to be on speaker too, because that kind of gets the echo.
You know what? I'm really not on a cell. Does it sound like I'm on speaker? I might be. I don't know.
It sounds good, Gail. Go ahead.
Okay. This is a cell I don't use very often. Let me turn down the volume here in a second.
Excellent. Okay, very good. I have, thank you, Steph, for calling in, and I found my long-lost.
What's going on?
Okay, I'm turning down the volume. Hi.
Okay.
Excuse my allergy. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I just flew in from California with the wildfires and pollution, and then into southeast Kansas, where it's allergy country, so excuse my voice. I started taking your Remag and Remite several months ago, just at a half a teaspoon each, and my fingernails have just taken off growing. It's great. And along with that, I was taking some bone balance from a naturopath up in Canada. I'm not Canadian. I just got them, and I've been taking them for quite a while, but I'm not going to continue. And my fingernails aren't doing as well. There was a lot of calcium in it, but there were other ingredients. And I'm 70, and I had knee replacement, and everyone says you've got to do something about your bones. So I'm doing better, I think.
Okay,
with my diet.
Let's focus here. What's this bone balance? You took it, it's got high calcium, and your nails aren't doing as well. So what does that make you think?
I was taking bone balance, and I ran out. And I'm just on a half a teaspoon of Remag, and my nails aren't doing quite as well right now.
Okay. I see. Okay. Well, what we do, I'll look up this bone balance and see what's in it, because we use, with the Remag and Remite, they're just so well absorbed. They're better than most pills products. Is it a Source Natural bone balance?
No, it's out of Nova Scotia. And so it's not in the U.S. Let me see if I I don't know if I have an empty bottle. I don't think I do anymore.
Right.
But the other.
Well, I mean, I don't. What is your question then? Because half a teaspoon of Remag is only 150 milligrams of magnesium, so that's not going to do much.
Well, that's what I wanted to know because I didn't know how many milligrams it was, and then also I've got osteoporosis minus 2.5, so I'm borderline, and I went to the doctors, people, from my surgeries. Oh, you've got to do something about your bones. And she said, well, you need 600 twice a day of calcium. And I said, well, that's not very good for your arteries. And she says, oh, that's all been recently disproven.
Right.
So I know, and you've answered my question great on the fermented cod liver oil. I'll do that. And I've got leaky gut too. And I'm doing better on that, and some allergy, but I've got to work on my bones better.
Okay, well, I mean, you can Google my name and, bones and osteoporosis. The big thing about keeping the bones healthy and not brittle, getting them supple is having enough magnesium. It's not just the calcium. If you just take straight calcium for bones, you cause them to be brittle and they shatter more. And, most studies now are showing that. And you were right that, if you just take calcium supplements, you end up depositing calcium in your arteries. So if you read what I have to say about calcium, and we do have a Recalcia supplement that we use if people don't, get enough. There's total of 600 milligrams of calcium a day in their diet. There's the Recalcia, but then the Remag has to be at least 600 milligrams, which is 2 teaspoons a day. And the Remite is also important for all the other minerals. So, I mean, that's kind of our formula in terms of the leaky gut. We get people to look into what I say about yeast and use a probiotic if they've had a history of antibiotics. That's scientifically known. And, if you look at our total body reset, we do have a protocol that helps people build their cells to make them all healthy. And, all these layers of problems that everybody's suffering. Like if you have an irritated nasal passages and mucous membranes and get allergies, that's related to yeast. People who have yeast, they're the little guys, they just dig into any mucous membrane. And if you've got a leaky gut, then often people have leaky sinuses just from the irritation of the yeast. Oh, yeah, it's very much related. If you look at I have a book with the yeast diet, Reset Your Yeast. You can find that at drcarolyndeanlive.com and just put in the search button yeast, and all the information will come up. And going on a yeast diet will help starve the yeast so that it doesn't irritate your mucous membranes.
Okay, so 2 teaspoons of Remag, and then then how much Remite?
Remite, the dose is 3/4 teaspoons twice a day. 3/4 of a teaspoon twice a day. So that's a total of 1.5 teaspoons.
Okay. And the Remag, 2 teaspoons, 1 teaspoon twice a day. Okay.
That's right.
How am I going to travel with this? I put it in my water.
Well, right. I get a bunch of little 3-ounce bottles or 3.4 ounces they'll allow, and just fill them up and travel with them. I traveled for 3 weeks with carry-on, with my bottles. Yeah, and got away with it.
And they let you through.
Most of the time. Yeah, most of the time.
Well, good. Okay, I'm going to follow this, and I'll get back to you on the yeast and the allergies and the bones.
Okay. Yeah, we'd love to hear back from you. Hopefully you can get on the next time a little easier, Gail.
That was my fault. Thank you.
Okay, great. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. If we haven't gotten you on the phone yet, we're happy to do it this evening. You've got to call us, 602-666-6027, and give us a chance to plug you into Dr. Dean. Hit *5 on your keypad, and we'll put you right through. Let's see, Carolyn. I think we've got everybody on. Let's see right now. And also, somebody's typing in on the chat line. Can I please get your thoughts on taking diatomaceous earth daily as a supplement?
Well, diatomaceous earth, I've been looking at it for parasites, actually. And personally, I take it just maybe once a week. I'll muscle test myself, and I don't even need it that much anymore. I do bentonite and psyllium every day just for bulk. I don't add diatomaceous earth every day. I think it's probably a little too harsh, but that's all I have to say about it. I think it's probably good for parasites. I don't know if the FDA approves of it or not. It's used for animals, that's for sure. But that's how I use it, maybe, once a week or once every 2 weeks now. But there was a time where I did it every day for a little while just to purge myself, deworm myself, as they do with animals.
That's funny, deworm myself. Carolyn, you're funny.
Yeah, the dewormers.
The dewormers. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Do you give your precious dogs and pussycat dewormers? Probably not.
Not really. I don't like to do that to them any more than I like to do it to myself necessarily. I mean, one good thing about animals is they're not afraid of dirt. God made dirt. Dirt don't hurt. They'll get in the dirt. They'll roll around in it. They'll get their bacteria. They get their prescriptive assistant every day because they get their dirt in,
Right.
So I don't think they need it as much. Yeah, I don't think they need it as much unless they're, doing naughty things, but like eating too much people food. But mine don't do that anymore. I saw the wisdom of that. Anyway, let's see. So what else do we have to chitty-chat about, Carolyn?
I have some more mailbag.
Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Go.
Someone's asking, saying, I need guidance on use of supplements to treat low moods and lack of sleep. Now, a low mood, that's not a disease, so we can talk about it. Lack of sleep, that's not a disease, so we can talk about it. And basically, magnesium or Remag is going to be helpful. All the complement formulas are going to be helpful. I would just start with Remag and add the other ones as you get your energy and your sleep from the Remag. Then you'll be so excited to start more of them. I mean, that's our basic philosophy. Build up your the health of your cells, and you'll feel good. Someone else here is asking about vitamin K2, and I think I've already given enough information about that. Next person is saying, I'm taking a half capful daily, I think, of Remag, and should I take more? And then asking what's the best time to take it. And this is obviously a new person because and they might not be getting as much information as we used to give pre-FDA observance. A half capsule is only 150 milligrams. The RDA of magnesium is 350 to 400 milligrams. we're lucky to get 200 milligrams in even a really good diet. I personally am telling people that 600 milligrams is what I take, between 300 and 600 milligrams. So half a capsule is not really that much. The way I tell most people to take it is to put the 2 capsules a day in a liter of water and sip that through the day. All through the day is good to, periodically kind of saturate your cells. If you take all 2 teaspoons at once, you can lose the excess in your urine or in your stool. So that's the basics on taking the Remag. Good question here about the absorption rates of different magnesiums. She says, I know that oxides are poorly absorbed at only 4%, but isn't that reflected on the labels of these products? In other words, if the label says you get 150 milligrams of elemental magnesium per tablet, isn't that what your body's getting after factoring in what's not absorbed? Or is the amount absorbed actually less than what the label states? Absolutely. Just because it says 150 milligrams of elemental, then the absorption being only 4%, you're getting, 6 milligrams if it's a magnesium oxide. It's pretty bizarre, but that's apparently the case. And what is the absorption rate for different ionic magnesiums? If picometer size is nearly 100% absorbed, do nanometer and angstrom size magnesiums have a lower percentage that is absorbed? Well, what happens there is the angstrom that I used to use to try to keep my symptoms under control was only 3,000 parts per million, and our Remag is 60,000 parts per million. So what you're getting is just a huge concentration of magnesium, and it's a stabilized ion. I don't think the angstrom if there are such things as nano magnesiums, they don't have the technology that our chemist uses to stabilize the ions. And she does say, I love Remag, and I find that 450 milligrams of it is more powerful and health-giving than 450 milligrams of magnesium glycinate or even 450 of nanometer size ionic magnesium. Is that possible? Yes, so it's a stabilized ion and the 60,000 parts per million that make our magnesium so healthy and health-giving. And a while back, this person had a correspondence with Life Extension. They said, the below quote is Life Extension's response to me asking why they use poorly absorbed magnesium oxide with other forms in their magnesium supplement. Just thought you'd find it interesting. So Life Extension is saying, the body responds to the magnesium present in the intestines based on its own internal magnesium calibration. I've never heard such a thing. The body responds to magnesium present in the intestines based on its own internal magnesium calibration, shutting down some absorption when magnesium intake is high. Don't know about that. I mean, all these points that Life Extension makes doesn't even apply to Remag, because Remag, being ionic, is going to be absorbed directly into cells, even starting in the mouth and tongue. They say the absorption of most minerals and vitamins varies from person to person. That's true. Some people will absorb and utilize various forms in different ways. That's true. For magnesium, it may be related to slight differences in some of the transporters. Apparently there are magnesium transporters in the gut for the non-ionic picometer forms. Thus, combination products provide a person with the greatest possible absorption profile. Yeah, so they're saying they combine oxide with other forms for a better profile. It could also be argued that some forms, especially the organic forms of magnesium, such as citrate and succinate forms, they're not really organic, they're just, dirt minerals, may be the first to saturate the active transport system than the inorganic forms, such as oxide. I wonder why they call them organic forms. I guess it's a different tetracityrate and succinate more than the inorganic forms. So kind of gobbledygook to me. Thus, combination products that supply magnesium oxide combined with other forms represent a formula that is efficient and effective for the large majority of the population. No, that's all just gobbledygook because, bottom line, magnesium oxide is 4% absorbed no matter, what else is going on. 4% of it is going to be absorbed or not. I mean, it could be less. See, the problem is with the magnesium is we really don't have enough absorption studies. Some people quote Israeli study to me about, magnesium oxide is better absorbed than magnesium citrate. Look at this study. And when you read the study, you find out that they use twice the amount of magnesium oxide as they did citrate, which is obviously going to mean higher absorption of magnesium oxide. So there's a lot of strangeness going on in the magnesium world that only I know about. Not really, but I thought I'd throw that in.
No, that's true. You know more than anybody about everything in medicine. You do.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
People, in the end, they have to wean back, stop reading everything, and just talk and listen and analyze your stuff and take your product. That's always going to be the best solution. You just have to work your way through your mind's delusions that you've built up by thinking you had to learn all some new stuff because somebody said, don't rely on a doctor, you have to take responsibility. Well, you don't have to take that much responsibility once you meet Dr. Dean.
Yes. Okay, so Ginny, I have just the emails that I've already gone through about my critique of poor Jeff Bland, so I'm pretty done.
Excellent. Okay, let's see where we are here. Now, somebody asked on the chat line, and I'm just going to put the question out there for the archives. Is it okay to use Remag and Remite in the Restructure Shake?
Of course.
Yes. Yes.
You can do anything with our products. Really, you can do anything with them. Except for the RNA drops. You've got to keep a 15-minute gap between the drops and consuming something else. That's the only rule.
Very good. Very good, Bob. And then Margaret Lee. Oh, hello, Margaret. It's so good to hear from you. Margaret says, Carolyn and Ginny, I just want to let you know that the cyst in my hand has now decreased by half. I'm so happy and getting healthier and healthier. Thank you, Margaret. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And that would be a ganglion cyst, I think, which are pretty hard to get rid of. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of wonderful, healthy improvements for people. Of course, we don't treat or cure anything. I mean, we would never presume to cure a ganglion cyst, right, Carolyn? That would be a big no-no. Yes. Mm-hmm. But the body can do whatever it wants as it continues to feel better and better and healthier and more powerful. And so that's wonderful. Okay, let's see. And what else do we have? I think that
here's something, Ginny. Here's
Bob?
I think Christiane Northrup is some kind of advisor to Oprah Winfrey.
She is?
Yeah, and now her blurb on Carol's new book says that Carol is light years ahead of anybody. Now, that's coming from someone who's respected, seems to know a lot. She thinks Carol's light years ahead. So that's pretty good, eh? It's a pretty good compliment.
Yes, it's a lovely compliment, and Carolyn is light years ahead. Yes, and she's astute enough to pick it out, so it's more of a compliment to Christiane than it is to Carolyn, because the reality is Carolyn is riding a meteor of being way ahead of the curve that she's been on ever since she was a young medical student. But so the fact that Christiane has picked up on this is, like I said, more of a compliment to her, and definitely an affirmation of who Carolyn is. But my gosh, anybody who's around Carolyn for more than 2.3 seconds. If you guys haven't looked at Carolyn's Facebook page lately, you should go on there and see Carolyn's picture on her Facebook page. when she was out in San Diego visiting some people, she's standing next to a girl who's, I don't know,
34.
34. 34? Oh, really? Jermaine's 34.
Yeah.
And Carolyn's standing next to her, and she looks the same freaking age. Oh, my God. It's
and
hilarious.
Twice older. Double
Twice
35
her age and looks exactly the same. So, I mean, the woman's got it going on all the way around, yes. And, no fillers, plastic inserts, cheek implants, or whatever else everybody does, for crying out loud. Now, maybe a lot of what do you call those things, Carolyn? Coffee enemas. Maybe that
Bob
might.
I think there's a Bob factor in there. Living with Bob
it's the Bob
50
factor.
years, 50 years. TOD.
That's right.
50 years with me, and look at that. There.
50.
Very good. Very
50
good.
years.
Very good.
I'll claim some of the
Okay, very
environmental
good.
effects.
Well, obviously,
But
I should spend more time with Bob.
Yeah, when Carol says doctor from the future, I didn't know it meant light years from the future, of the future. We're way down there in the future.
That's right. All right, everybody. A great show tonight, Carolyn. Excellent job. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. It gets better and better and better. So happy you're here. Happy every single week that you guys are here. And we'll be back next week with more of the most wonderful show on the radio.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Bill.
Love
Great
your
show.
introductions, Jenny. Very good introduction.
You've been listening to Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. Till next time, so long, and thanks for all the fish.
AchieveRadio.com.
Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is AchieveRadio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AchieveRadio.